All right. So here's a tour of what happened at the locomotive place. I was telling you about the train place. First off, these things here are supposed to be the wheels, which in the axle, which there's that's supposed to be a wheel, that's supposed to be a wheel, and that's the axle. And this is the thing they hook to here, and they're sitting on top of a little orange cart here. So what they do is they start rolling the stuff down the line here, putting stuff together, adding pieces, add one set of wheels, two set of wheels, three sets of wheels. Then they push the cart on up here and they flip it over and they pick it up with a crane and they flip it over and put it on its wheels here to keep going down the tracks. Once they build those, they go through there and they slide them over, lift it across here and put it on this booth. Once they do that, what you do is bring them in here, and that's where we would actually paint them. That was part of my job, was the painting process. And we have to go around with like these paint guns and spray them and make them all solid black, no matter what color they were previously. Then, oops, got turned around, sorry. Then they would come out down the line, get picked up and set to the side for right now. Then the next thing that you'd have to get was if you come right over here. Hold on. This is like 3 or 4 different ways this factory is built. They would, this is the bottom of the train. They'd build that, just add pieces to it, and build the very, very bottom that would sit on top of the wheels right here. Put it all together. And all that would go together. Then they would wheel them across and take them to this booth over here where we would paint them all solid black. And you come in here. And those blue things are carts that you'd actually get in and ride up and down the sides. And then you go through and paint the entire side, or the entire thing black. This was my main area where I worked most of the time. We also had a break area over here. All the paint would come out of this. Well, no, this right here was the furnace that would be used to heat up the booth and dry the paint once it was done. This is a storage room that would be full of paint and stuff like that in here. And that would shoot the paint into the guns that we would use. Then here's where things might get interesting for you guys. After that, they would pull them out and start lining the trains over here and finish building them upside down. Then they would take them to this thing here and they would flip them over. All right, here's where things might get interesting for you. Then they would bring them over here and sit them down in stations. This is 2 different stations at once. They'd put the engine in, which would be right here. That's what that thing's supposed to be. And they'd bring up pieces to add. Like this is the back end of it. And they would lay it down on there with the crane. And then it would be attached right here. And those are cranes in the ceiling up there. Then once they got done putting this part together, they'd wheel them on down the line. And they add more to it. Where they add more sections, more little rooms and stuff. Put more of the engine together and things like that. Then they'd wheel it further down the line. And they start putting the cab, which is the area where, you'd actually ride in and things like that. Oops, hold on. That's where they would drive them and things like that. Oops. Then at this point, they would bring them to this part here. They would set 2 of the wheel areas down, like the wheelbase things that I was telling you about. And they'd pick them up, train up with the cranes at that point and sit them on top of there so there'd be a full finished one right here. Like, see how that's the wheels on top of the... So theoretically, those could roll down the tracks. Then they would drive them at that point across this big section here, which would slide left to right. And they'd finish putting them together like that. They would store all the the pieces that went on the outside of it over here. Then once they put them all together, they'd have a finished one here they would test. And then they'd be finished and ready to go. So at this point would be the time that it would come to us at that point. So what they would do is they'd wheel it out this door here, go around the tracks. I'm not going all the way around there because I don't think I did that whole section. And you come, after they drive it all the way around the building. Maybe I did. Is that what this is? Oh no, this is just the road. There was a road for delivery trucks and stuff. That's kind of where we're going. Oh, those are the two houses. My current house and my old house that my kids have lived in. That was another outside break area we could have. But then what they would do is they would drive the trains around, bring them down this track here, come on down through here, and they would start wheeling them in to the section I worked at. Usually it would be a whole train, but sometimes it would just be parts of a train. There was a little car-like thing that was super heavy that you could move to roll them around. So then we would slide, that orange thing slid back and forth, and we would slide them across here and pick a section we were going to do. So we'd get a locomotive in here, and it would be all messed up, and we'd have to prep it and get it ready to paint. So we would do that in here, sand it down, and all kinds of super dirty, nasty job. But yeah, we'd sand it down, get it ready to go, and we would roll it into this booth here. Then at that point, we would get ready to, we would go through and paint it, and it would wind up being a finished unit like this, where the whole thing was painted and good to go. Have the designs painted on it and be finished. Then once they got done, they would roll them back around the building. That was one. Those were ones that go around our country. This one here went to Africa, or is supposed to be one like that. And that's when we took a door off of. It's what that's supposed to look like, because the whole inside's beige. And then you come on down here. That's supposed to be a delivery truck. And here's some other ones we made. These are out in the eastern part of the United States. They're called BNSF. That's supposed to be a Kansas City Southern one that we've made. That's another one that was just our own company one. No, sorry, that was a Kansas City Southern one. That was a Ferromax, which are all down in Mexico. This one here went to Saudi Arabia. Then we have this big thing here called the Lightning Room, which had these big things. We didn't use it for this purpose, but when it was still Westinghouse, which made electronics and stuff, they used to like blow up transformers and stuff in there. There's another storage area that we built. This is supposed to be a trash compactor. It's just black back in there. Nothing really to see. Okay. More storage areas. Here's a bunch of offices and stuff, where like the engineers and stuff would design things. Tons and tons of those over here. Then, this is the storage. Oh, there's a bathroom. Then we had another big break area right here. A big storage room, warehouse-like area over here that you stored parts in. I'm just going to take a shortcut. Then that's where they built those one things I showed you earlier. Here's another break area we had. There's a bunch of tables and stuff in here. Okay, there was more offices and things over here. Training rooms, bathrooms again. Here's where they built a bunch of the cabs and stuff like that. There was more warehouse stuff over here. Here's where they taught people how to weld and things over here. That's what those red things are supposed to represent, weld curtains, which are supposed to be like sunglasses to protect your eyes. More storage areas over here. More storage areas. It's called a weld lab, where they just make stuff and weld stuff together and make things for the factory here. Locker room area that we had. A bunch of lockers and benches and things like that. Nurse's office that we had as well, that you could go to get checked out if you got any problems. Another storage area that you can go to up there. More offices and things in here for HR, which is like kind of like the office for the school. Training areas. More offices for people. And then I didn't build this yet, if I ever do. Anyway, but that's the majority of the factory and how it works. It's a huge build. It took me forever. If you want to see more, I can show you more of it, but otherwise I'm going to stop here. Hope you enjoyed. There you go.